Good morning, afternoon, evening, or good night. Um, this is day 3 of week 3 or day 13. Yeah, 5, 10, 30. Yeah, 13. Which was September 24th here at LAMDA in jolly old London. And um, we had some nice things, some accomplishments. Number 1, journal number 1 is complete. Journal number 2 has been started. So that's exciting. Also a little daunting because I only have one more of these and I cruise through it. But it was a great day. We started off, this Wednesday's our long day. We have 6 classes, 75 minutes each. So we started with acting through song, and then we had combat, and then we had historic music, and then we had lunch, and then we had then we had artist development, and then we had awareness through movement, and we ended with voice into text. So a lot happens on Wednesdays. But we started off with good old Johnny Barr. Before class started, he was talking to Mia. I feel like I haven't super connected with him yet, and I want to, and I'm just kind of like hovering around a little bit, just listening. I'm like, oh yeah, that's cool. Let me just listen to you talk to other people. It's not like a like an insecure kind of thing that I'm feeling this, but I want to impress him or connect with him or something, Anyway, so what we ended up doing, besides after we had a little struggle with all the pianos, Paul was not happy because the piano that was in the room that we had was significantly out of tune, and then they had a keyboard but no pedal, and then they brought another keyboard like halfway through the class, but it had no music stand. It was just, he wasn't happy. And he wasn't happy for us, which was nice. He's like, you guys are paying for this, and but he's a musical genius and was able to like work around the wrong notes. And it wasn't just that they were like flat or sharp or whatever, but they were just like wrong, like 2 keys in a row were the same note, and then it was wonky donkey. Anyway, so I was listening into Johnny's conversation with Mia, and he was telling her to sing "The Story Goes On," which is a great song that we know from Our Story Goes On, which is a Nauvoo thing. And I was like, yeah, I know that song. It's a great song. Story goes on and on and on and on and on. And I'm like, that's so connected to like our purpose on earth and things for me. But then apparently Liz Calloway sang it originally on Broadway. And he was like, oh, look at this. He pulls out his phone, and he was FaceTiming Liz Calloway the other day. Which of course he was. It doesn't feel like he's just name dropping. I don't know. He definitely is. But it's not like, oh, look who I am and what I've done. It's just like, isn't this cool? I don't know. He's a cool guy. Anyway, so we all wrote our names on a piece of paper and folded them up and put them in a pile. And we just drew names to see who was going to work on their song. And someone went first. I'm trying not to say names exactly. Someone worked on Maria first, and they killed it. And some things I learned from watching them was Johnny was talking about what does that name make you feel, and they did like a full performance at first, and it was killer and awesome. But then Johnny was like, just like stand and sing, and so they did, and just focusing on that build and those words and just the name Maria, 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 Maria. So much is like repetitive. And so you need to build, it needs to have purpose, right? Whenever you say the same word more than once in a sentence, it needs to grow and have that specificity. Then yeah, Johnny said, make us feel through the words in the song. Just feel, don't demonstrate. Come alive with the first note and use that intro as an actor, like thinking about the name, and then it leads you into song. And Johnny was saying how you can do a ton with just the beginning, right? And you got to use those intros. And then someone saying After Hours, which I don't know. It's not a musical theater song. It's like a rock song, and he did it like more like show tuney, not show tuney in the way he performed it, but just in the like the way he sang it. But it was just in the story he was telling with it. It was like, if you close the door, but it was just all about having social anxiety and not going outside. And you don't have to see the sun, but you kind of want to. But it's cool. There's some emphasis on diction again, because it's important to have good diction. Always diction. You need to be understood. You need to be heard. Johnny was saying how if there's like a line that you get that just clicks for you, what is it? And kind of base a song around that. And then how does the song build and change throughout? What's the story? What's the beginning, the middle, and the end? And then once again, repetition. How does it change, evolve, or develop? Then another person did Another Night at Daryl's, which is from The Wicked Witches of Eastwood, I believe is what it's called. I think it's a newer thing. But she did great. She started with being a little worried about the music and being a little worried about her performance. And so Paul, the pianist, stopped her and said, "Why are you looking at me?" And she said, "How well, I want to make sure like I'm on with the time, and I want to make sure that like I'm doing it right." And Paul was like, "First off, you're not off, and if you were, it's my job to like sort it out." So it's so great to have a live pianist, because recordings are unforgiving. You can't take those little liberties, and if you get off, you're off and you're screwed. And so Johnny just said, "Be strong and wrong. Strong and wrong." That's great. Don't doubt yourself. Use pauses and let the rhythm and the story carry it. And then there's this note that she was kind of holding back on. He's like, "Just go for it. Go for the belt, and just do it." Like I it's like a leap of faith, right? You gotta full send it, because if you don't do it, you won't make it. And then someone else did Big Spender from Sweet Charity, and she doesn't have singing experience, and so so Paul broke down like the notes, and it was just kind of like, what do they call it? Pitch match, note mashing, pitch mashing. So just like going through it, like, and just like helping out and making it really individual and specific. It's like, oh, that's awesome. That's great to take the time and meet people where they're at. And it's so cool to see different levels of experience and different ways to help that. And then yeah, and I think it's important for us to know our stuff as well. And then And then someone else did If I Didn't Believe in You. And he did a really like, if I didn't believe in you, just like very introspective and interpersonal, and it was great acting choice. But Johnny was like, the mic won't pick that up. The mic will only pick up what you give it. So like, do it. And then he also focused on standing and not demonstrating with this person as well. And then he said, I'll believe it if you've done the work and you believe it, right? So you know the notes, you know the rhythm, you know your stuff. And if you believe what you're saying, so will the audience. And then for this, Johnny had him sing to another student just to be really real and connect. And there was the power in the stillness, and it just really helped bring it into the real world and bring it into the truth of it. And then this was a fun little quote. If you stand there and move people by doing nothing, and of course not doing nothing, but you don't have to add anything else. If just the music and just the words and just your performance of the song as it is instead of your performance, then that's gold. That's what you want. Treat every song like a standalone piece. This is some just good practical advice. So when you're doing an audition, don't worry too much about the story and how it fits and all that. Just do it as a standalone piece, because that's real, that's connectable, that's honest. And then also make sure it's got that story. It's got the beginning, the middle, and the end. Then we had stage combat, and we did these stretches. Let me see if I can remember some. Let's see. Let me move my clothes. Okay. We did. So we started with our feet together, and then we brought our heels out, our toes out, and our heels out, which made our toes go in a little bit, but I think that was the idea. And then we bent our knees, and then we kept our backs flat, stretch out, and we pushed our hands back and spread our chest in the exhale, and that was to kind of connect. And it wants to be like soft. You don't want to just like throw on, like force them back, but you just want to like have the weight of them go whoosh. So we did that. Or maybe we went down. No, down was different. We did go down too, and then we went up. Right, all about just having that attack, but it being loose and ready. And then, see how much I can show you. So this is your ready stance. Toe facing, your front toe facing your opponent. Both knees bent, your back foot perpendicular, right? And then if you lunge, you shoot off from there. You lock out your back leg, and you get your knee over your toe. So boom, boom. That's the idea. And then so we learned a pass. I'm just gonna go over it. Let me get my notes out. So we did some stretching. We did our lunging on our right foot first. Da, da. And then to retreat, you kind of just bring it back. And then we went the other way, right? Ba, ba, ba. And then, is it still going? It looked like it froze for a second. Yeah, we're still going. And then we learned passe, or passing, which is what you would do with a a thrusting and slashing weapon, but you want to square your hips and your chest, do it towards you, and then you go here and pivot, here and pivot, and that's passing through the person. Oh, we also did little pivots. Just kind of practicing that. And he said it's better to spin on your heel because it's just easier. And then we first did this kind of pivot, just a quarter pivot. And then we did a 180 pivot. And then he said, was it this way? I feel like it was that way. Yeah, I think I need you to turn over this way. But we also did a 3/4 turn, and then we did a full 360. He said the 360 isn't done a lot because you expose your back, but if you are moving forward and it's a two-handed weapon situation, then that might happen. So we practiced that, and he said the importance is you're falling, you kick up your knee high, right? High, and then you spin and you let that fall take you. But then you want to make sure you land with your knee in front of your toe, your left leg locked out. Wait, no. And then we practiced retreating. Oh, retreating is important because it's with the back leg. So if you're in an on guard position, right? Knees are both bent, ready. If you're retreating, you don't want to push off with your front foot because that, one, throws off your center of balance. Two, it makes you use more effort. So what you do is you kick back with your left, and if you're really down, you literally kick. Yeah, we practice it really subtly, so we just did. We just kind of did a step back, and it's not like pushing forward, but it's stepping back, and eventually we'll have that kick. And then let me get something that can act as a sword. Here, I have a pen. Okay. So that was a little bit about the comment. Comment's always hard to show. But then we got some fencing foils, some modern fencing foils. And imagine this is like the cup guard right here. The way you hold it is you get as close as you can to the cup guard with your fingers because it's supposed to protect your fingers, and if it's not over them, it's not going to protect them. And you just kind of pinch with your thumb and your pointer finger. And then the rest of your fingers are just for support. And you always want to keep your knuckles up or down. That's the positions. Okay? You don't want to be to the side or here, I guess. And so this is your da-da-da-da. And then we learned, here, let me see if I can give myself a little bit of space. Whoop. And then here is, we learned the 4 fencing defensive positions. Here's my story. I wish I had a stick or something a little longer. I don't think I do. But the first one is here. And in fencing, there's like kind of 4 main spots that you're going for. The eyes and the groin. So, and then it's based on, it's like defined by the person you're attacking. So left groin, right groin, left chest, right chest. So The first one is here. So I'm blocking here. And you always kind of want to have your point on the center line because this is the line of attack. If your point is on the center line and then you block it, it doesn't need to be a lot, but it'll be enough to keep it out of the way and away from those deadly spots, right, with the femoral artery and everything, and then like your brain behind your eyes. We're going to be focusing on the chest, not the eyes, because there's less room for error if you're aiming at each other's eyes. So you block here, that's for the left hip, and then you drop the elbow right from here to here, and then that blocks the right hip. Then you flip it up. That's the right chest. So here, so whoosh. And then this way for the left chest. So one, this is first position, second position, third, yeah, no, third position, fourth position. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. This is pushing it on the outside, on that outside. No. 1, 2. So it's like boom, 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 boom. Anyway, we practiced that a lot. And we kind of just drilled those things for a while, and it was great. And then I just realized this whole class is going to be about repetition and specific drills and just getting it in the body, so it's second nature. Well, that was combat and the end of journal number 1. Journal number 2. My first 3 will be all Van Gogh pictures. Then we had historic music with Graham. And we did a warm-up beginning with the slide. Then we did a lip trill sign. And then we did a hum. Then we did a lip trill. Right? It's hard to do. I'm trying to be quiet and not upset your neighbors. Is it 22 minutes? We're doing well on time. Almost halfway there. And then, shout out Sandridge. And then we did some scales on the drills, like. And then we did it on me. And then we explored pitches to separate it into 4 parts. A tenno, which we knew. And then we did a warming up with just an E, where it just was the dynamics. E. Right, we kept the same pitch, which I didn't do exactly right there, but it was just the crescendo and decrescendo. Then we did a tongue twister, which was a silly one because it's funny, but it's Sarah sits in the shoe shop. When she sits, she shines, and when she shines, she sits. Of course, the joke is that you might say a potty word, but I did not. And then we sang to that. I don't remember the melody. But then we did a canon to Coffee, which I also don't remember the little song, but it was like Coffee. Coffee is for me. It was silly, but we just did it in the canon. So we sang one of the lines. Well, the first group sang one of the lines, and the second group came in with when the other one was at the second, and then we came in. We were the third group when the last one was on the third, and the second group was on the second, and so then it played out, and we sang it twice. And then we got back in our parts for Where the Bee Sucks. Did I pull that one out? Where the bee sucks, there suck I. In a cowslip's bell I lie, there I couch when owls do cry, on the bat's back I do fly, after summer merrily. And then that repeats, and then it's like, merrily, merrily shall I live now, under the bosom that hangs on the bough. Merrily, merrily shall I live now, under the bosom that hangs on the bough. Then that repeats. That was the little melody part. That was where the bee sucks. And I think we're done with the bee sucking now. Bummer. Which is a song that was written for Shakespeare. And it was from The Tempest. I talked about that last time. But then now we got our new song, Since First I Saw Your Face, by Thomas Ford. And we've broken into 4 parts. And I don't know it yet. Maybe I'll sing it next week. But yeah, we reviewed our music and our parts. We added dynamics, so a general crescendo through the first page and then a general crescendo through the second. And then this, Since First I Saw Your Face, is a madrigal. It was handwritten, and handwriting music lasted into like the late 19th century, even into the 20th century, until the later 90s when music software was introduced, and it kind of changed the music world because you no longer had to spend hours transposing music. You could just push a button and it would do it all automatically. And then Graham showed us a picture of the original Transcape with like mistakes and just like how it looks and how it's developed. And that was historic music. It was fun because we started learning that song and we recorded our parts and whatnot. And then we went to lunch. Yes. I think we had lunch after historic music. Yes. And then we had artistic development with Ollie. And we just talked about reflexive practice. And a quote he put up by Donald Schoen, Schon. Don't know if it's Schoen or something, but I think Schoen. Says reflective practice is the ability to reflect on one's actions so as to engage in a process of continuous learning. And then we talked about 3 questions. We talked about why is it worth reflecting, what are the challenges of reflecting, and how should we reflect. We got into pairs and we discussed that and kind of wrote down some of our answers, and then we discussed it as a whole class. And reflection helps lessons sink in and allows you to process it. What happens when you get stuck or stop as an artist or an actor? We all stop. Like, how can we make sure we don't have that block or that lack of progress? And reflection is kind of helping us future-proof for our next performance. And it connects the unconscious with the conscious. Something Ollie said is write down your dreams. I don't know if that was like aspirational dreams or your literal dreams that you dream. Like, what are you dreaming? I think it might be both. But he said, sorry, I just had to put that on low power mode so it lasts the whole day. He said, you'll find a well of inspiration, and it helps you feel better. So the inspiration felt like inspiration felt like a sleeping dream, and the feel better felt like an aspirational dream. But nothing is wasted if you can understand and build from it. Like, you might have a negative experience. You might have a failed performance or whatever. But if you learn from it, it was beneficial and it serves you. Something that's great about reflection is it makes you to be present with yourself. You are the beginning and the end of your process, right? So get comfortable with yourself. Really knowing what you want to do is a great gift in life. I kind of reflected and wondered what I really want. Assessing from a third-person point of view, you can eliminate the inner critic and self-loathing and get like a more unbiased truth, right? We need to understand so that we can replicate and change. Oh, then Ollie used this turn of phrase that I really liked. He said, reflection is throwing a saddle over instincts, meaning you're taming it. You're becoming instead of just having raw, unbridled instincts to like lead you, you're mastering your instincts, but still having them and using them. I thought that was cool. Oh, and then he talked about an example with Robin Williams with Mrs. Doubtfire, where for every scene he would do 3 scripted takes and 15 improvised takes, and then afterwards Robin Williams would be like, "What did I do? I don't even know. I was just kind of riffing." It's like, and so some people are blessed to just get it, and kind of get in that flow state. But that's not most of us. Most of us need to be much more reflective. And if you get into flow, that's wonderful. Don't mess with it. One of the pitfalls, right? One of the potential cons is that negative self-talk is very easy to fall into, and the spiral is so simple, right? That, oh, that sucked. I'm bad. I shouldn't do this. I'm wasting my life. I'm wasting my money. I'm doing all this and that. And it's a very normal thing. Lope de Vega is a famous Spanish Golden Age playwright who is extremely prolific. I think wrote thousands of plays. I'd have to double check that, but that's on my mind. After he passed away, they found a room in his house that was splattered with blood, and he had self-flagellated, which means that he would take a flail and hit himself as a retribution for his sins. It's kind of connected with religion, which is sad. But like, even the best beat themselves up, even though some of us do it literally, I guess. But we may feel like we don't have enough time, but we can make time if we look at it, right? That might be a con, that we don't have time. But there's always time. You just got to make some certain sacrifices. If it's sleep, if it's social, if it's taking the bus or the tube, right? And then another great Ollie quote is, "We are our instruments, our emotions, and our memories." That's the tools for an actor, is our bodies, ourselves, and our memories and our emotions. And you just can't deny those and separate yourself from them. So you got to take care of them and understand them. And it's also okay to just like create some distance and put it down, right? Let the experience sit and marinate. And I said, have a checklist of what you want to accomplish. The main basics, like in a performance, I want to say my lines, I want to do these. And then you can have some satisfaction in doing the main things, like showing up, right? Doing the thing. I don't know if I agree with that per se, because I feel like that, like to stay positive, I'm not sure. It was a student's idea. Then it's okay to hold yourself to a high standard and expectation. Just maintain the balance and don't lose yourself in the process. It's hard to be positive. Be honest with yourself when you do something well also, which is huge. Then you can learn from all experiences. Always reflect. Don't try to get lucky or successful, meaning sometimes you just throw yourself in something and you're underprepared, but you're just good, right? And you can go off the cuff and you could just be like, well, nailed that, and move on. But why? Why did it work? And then something Ollie said is, make a contract with yourself and renew it regularly to be honest with yourself. If you did something well, you did something well. If you did something poorly, you did something poorly. If you didn't prepare, you didn't prepare. If you did. And just be honest with yourself. Don't lie to yourself. It doesn't serve anyone. If you say you're going to do something, do it, right? If you say you're going to wake up at 5 in the morning, wake up at 5 in the morning. If you say you're going to go for a run, go for a run. Be honest and committed to yourself. Then know yourself, right? There's that famous person, I can't remember who it was, but know thyself, I believe, is a philosopher who said that. And so I'm going to ponder that and reflect on that a bit. Like, who am I? Excuse me. Oh. Okay, it's okay. We're cruising. We're kicking. One of these is movement, so I don't have a lot that I wrote down. Okay, reflection allows you to drain your brain and let go of things and continue, right? Write it down. The page doesn't judge. And then there's levels of progress. There is the unconscious incompetence, meaning you don't know that you're not good at something. The conscious incompetence, meaning that you are aware that you're not good at something. Third is the conscious of your competence. You know that you're doing well. And then past that is your unconscious competence, meaning that you don't have to think of it. You can just, that's the flow state. You just do it and you do it well. I feel like I'm in two, that I'm conscious of my incompetence. And incompetence is a strong word because I have some competence, but I don't feel like I get in flow a lot. I might be overly analytical or, yeah, so I'm going to try to surrender more. Then a brilliant book that we need to read on story structure, is Into the Woods by John York. And then we went over some slides, and just reflection helps you remember what you've done and how you did it. This right now is part of my reflection. I write things down. That's part of my reflection, and I do this every morning, which is another great way for me to reflect because it helps things stick in my head and helps me process things. And then I share it with you. Whoever you may be, one of my 5 viewers, I just looked at, I don't know what my average is, but I appreciate y'all. Shout out to you guys. It's probably just Emma, my mom, and some students. Leah, you might be watching. And yeah, Brinkley might be watching too. Anyway, take ownership. Then there's the cycle right here where it's experience. You have an experience, you need to reflect on that, and then you need to take action from that experience and then have a new experience. And that's building, right? Take ownership and resilience to your experience. Yeah, take ownership. Like if you do something good or you do something bad, own it. Take responsibility. Right? Oh, I kind of want to try cold showers, just to force myself to do something uncomfortable and get out of my head. Not that I feel trapped in my head, but I do think a lot. It's important to breathe and get some separation and distance. Ollie has joined this club where Hyde Park, he swims in this river. It's 25 pounds a year or something. And so every morning at 5:30 to 7 or something, he can swim in this river. And he's and he loves it in the winter when it's cold, and he just forces himself to, right, if I don't breathe this way, I'm going to freak out. So, yeah. Also, we're all going to die. So how do we spend the time we have? Yeah, and don't let our failures overly define us, right? There was a director, John Bowman, who directed Deliverance, which was this really interesting movie that had dueling banjos. And then he directed The Exorcist 2, which was really introspective and was nothing what fans expected, and he never got over it. Then we all have to reconcile ourselves to the fact that we will all make bad work. I don't remember who said that, but it was a quote that Ollie quoted about someone. But we all have to reconcile ourselves to the fact that we will all make bad work, and that's totally fine. That's part of it. And then we discussed what is classical work, and how do we define it? And that's our homework. We're going to kind of ponder that. Okay, then we move to awareness through movement with Michaela. And we started, she doesn't like me taking notes because she wants me to be present, which totally makes sense and I agree with on principle, but I fear that I don't get to capture everything I want. But we started physically and vocally embodying how we felt. And then we had some time to get into our body. And then we began laughing, kind of building it with our eyes, just and then with the breath, but not showing our teeth. and then building up into just like a full belly laugh, and connecting with people, and how that like and then we went semi-supine, so we laid on our back but bent our knees and had our feet on the ground, and then rocked to the side and did the same thing, kind of building into that laughter. And then we tried it on the other side and building into a sob. Like, we didn't like actually cry, but we had the vocalization of sobbing, because it's very similar to laughter, just with a different emotion behind it. Then we got into a full circle and laughed together. And then we learned these ideas. Okay, so like fix points or a full stop or freeze is when in the world you're like doing something and then you stop, because either you realize something, you get distracted, you're scared, or whatever happens, but there's that moment where like freeze, and it's a real life thing. And so we practice doing that a little bit. Then there's suspension, where you like, you want to talk to someone and you're just like, oh yeah, okay, and it just has that like linger, like you kind of move through molasses. So we practiced that a bit with different people, and kind of connecting with them and being like, okay, yeah, walk in, and then moving. And then we did a comic stop, which is like a jolt of fear, excitement, pleasure, whatever it may be. But we practiced with pairs, and then having them say our names, and then we're like, oh. And then it kind of grew, and it's stop, that whole just jolt of whatever it may be. And then we did what was it? I want to say Aunt Sandy, but no, that's just my Aunt Sarah, Aunt Mary. I think it was Aunt Mary. Anyway, the idea is one of us is Aunt Mary, and we're at a family gathering, and Aunt Mary loves you and is coming to give you a hug. Or maybe not, but there's that family interaction. And so first we did it in a way where we saw each other from across the room, and it was a yes from both of us. We both wanted to give this hug, this embrace. And then another one we tried was we both don't want to give the hug or the embrace. And then, sorry, this is gonna be a long video. But we still had to, because we're family. So we're like, oh, hi, yeah, it's good to see you. Yeah, how are you doing? And and then we did a reversal. Oh, we also did where we were getting off a train, and this kind of evolved from Aunt Mary. And we were getting off a train, and we were like past lovers, and we see each other. We kind of put in those those fixed points, and then the suspensions, and maybe the what is it? Comic stops. Where we see the person, and we're trying to add those in as we were like making this little story that we haven't seen each other for years, and now we're really excited. And then we tried that with a reversal as well. Like, we think we see the person. And my little story was that I lost my glasses, so I was like, is that you? And then I got up, and then she, my scene partner, realized it before me that I wasn't the right person. I was like, oh, Jessica, so good to see you. And then I pulled away. I was like, hey, you're not Jessica. And it was this fun little thing. And then we practiced these techniques with different people before we walked around. Oh, yeah. Before we did all this, we had this moment of just like moving. And we started moving with how we felt that day. And then it kind of built. And then I don't remember how it exactly. We watched each other walk, and then we kind of created little songs or beats based on their movement. And it's like, and then they listened to that, and then they changed their walk based on the music. So it was influencing each other. And then they're like, walking differently. And I was like, Then they came back and they listened to that new music and they're like, oh. And then it changed again. So we did that three Sept times. It moved in 3 levels, and then we switched. And that was cool. And then we kind of just were making movement and making sound together, and turned into this like tribal-esque chanting and movement and clapping and making beats. And it was so cool. I love that stuff because there is something stripping away our experiences and our cultures and our backgrounds. There's a really natural, primal, ancestral connection we have to movement and sound, which was really cool. Yeah, I liked it. I didn't get a lot of notes on that day because afterwards, I was writing these things down. Michaela said how this is a good time to take notes. This is a good way to do notes, not during the activity, but like afterwards. I was like, but then I forget things. I didn't have it right down, and then I did it in the wrong order and whatever, but it's okay. Then we have voice into text with George, and he gave us 3 handouts, and our homework is going to be writing down any questions we have and the information from the 3 handouts. The 3 handouts are Speaking Sonnets, Chapter 12 of Classic Voice from Catherine Wheat, Shakespeare's Thoughts on Embodying Verse, Peter Hall's Thoughts on Embodying Verse, and then Using the Sonnets, going over some old ground. And so we got to read those. And then, he said we're going to revise what we did. And revise is the English way of saying review. And so we talked about what we learned with scansion and parsing and breaking down the text. We talked about that we're going to memorize a sonnet a week. We talked about how 4 lines in a sonnet or a verse. Let's see. Here's one. Here's sonnet 18. This is one we wrote down. So you see how it's separated into 4, 4, 4, 2. So this is called a quatrain because qua, like cuatro, is 4, and train is like a verse or a line. And then the ending is a rhyming couplet, a romantic couplet, right? Because the rhyme scheme is A, B, A, B, C, D, C, D, E, F, E, F, G, G. So the last one's the only one that doesn't alternate. It's just like bada, right? And that's the organization of all of Shakespeare's sonnets, except for one. And we learned about a trochee, right? Which is not dadum, which is an iamb, but a trochee is dadum. So like the 3, it feels otherworldly and different. And the 3 witches, boil, boil, toil, and trouble, cauldron, burn, and cauldron, bubble, right? It's all with these trochees, which makes it feel otherworldly. And then a dactyl. A dactyl is a metrical foot of 3 syllables with 1 long and 2 short, as in happily, or, just happily. And the dactyl is the reverse of an anapest. And an anapest is a metrical foot of 3 syllables where 2 short followed by 1 long, which is like 17, 17, or to the moon, right? And those will be used sometimes in feminine ending moments, sonnets, lines in a sonnet. And then every Shakespeare follows that rhyme scheme of A, B, A, B, C, D, C, D, E, F, E, F, G, G, except for one, which is fun. and our pronunciation has moved on, so don't just make things rhyme, such as temperate date. That's weird. Don't say thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lease hath all too short a date, just to make it rhyme. And then you don't want to feel straitjacketed by the technique and everything. Oh, I need to do that. Where's my phone? I just need to remember to email him to add certain words to the glossary, because we keep finding new words that we didn't have. George. I'll just start that. Okay. We need to add elision, parsing, and contraction. A contraction is the compressing of a word, such as dimmed, D-I-M-M apostrophe D instead of dimmed. And then when you work in George's class, you will put everything on your chair and you'll move your chair out of the way, and then you'll take the power position. And so somebody started with delivering Sonnet 14, and we were in a circle, and so he removed his chair and put it out, and then George was like, go to the power position. So he first went in the middle of the circle, and that wasn't the right answer because he would have to move around and couldn't see people. So he went to his spot where he was sitting so that he can see everyone and everyone can see him. And then right when presenting, you want to keep your feet parallel and not your toes out, because that tenses your butt. You don't want tension. And then, yeah, the Sonnet 18 is about passion and love. It's just you and that other person, right? And you really want to be locked in with that person. You want to know how your beloved is taking these words, and you're watching like a hawk to determine it, right? Watching allows for discoveries and new ideas in the moment. When working with heightened text, the text does all the work. We don't need to drum up emotion or add to it. This is something I'm still a little hesitant on believing full-heartedly, but apparently the text is enough. And you don't need to act or add pauses or add anything. The words is sufficient. So just rely on the meter and the words, and that'll be better than if I'm like, shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lease, right? All of that kind of acting and discoveries and hesitations and micro expressions, all of that is apparently unnecessary. And you should really just breathe into it. Take a breath at the end of each line, regular line. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lease hath all too short a date. See, I messed up. I didn't breathe between those. Anyway, I'm learning still. The breath is there, and you don't need to grasp for it. Just take a breath, right? Let it in. If you trip over your tongue, a good little technique is to repeat the line 3 times afterwards correctly. And slow down and breathe. Your breath has created more authenticity and humanity, right? Trust in the words. Don't dumb down the text with a bunch of pauses and a bunch of extra stuff. We don't need to demonstrate, which is fascinating because I feel like everyone does. But the audience will infer the meaning and get it if we have done the work and know what we are saying. We'll work on the emotional meaning of punctuation, just not quite yet. And then don't hold that tension, relax and release. Imagine the words, not effort or emotion, right? Don't play on that, just the words, the metaphor. They metaphorically bridge the gap and wrap your scene partner in a duvet of something. I put gab instead of gap. And then keep a steady pace and rhythm. Find the legato. The word should caress. And then it's a dialogue. Every speech, every soliloquy is a dialogue that just hasn't been answered yet. So connect with someone in a soliloquy. Connect with the audience. Don't indulge in yourself, but do indulge in the words. That's something I'm playing with a little bit. And then parsing isn't paraphrasing. You want to translate the words to understand the syntax and understand the rhythm of it. It'll help you memorize it and learn it. And then whenever Shakespeare repeats a word, it's purposeful and frequent, right? Like every fair from fair, some time declines. So what does it mean? Why sometimes a word has dual meanings, so that's brought up in comparison, right? Stay present. Don't act, take action. I liked that. Keep breathing and know what you want. Know the intent of your words, sorry. And then I went up and I did it. Someone else did it in between here too, but I was stopped like at every line. And I mean, I've taught this for 4 years, 2 times a year. Well, more than that, like 6, like 4 times a year almost. So 4 times, that's like 16 times. And I have it deeply memorized and I can say it in one breath, sometimes twice in one breath. But it was interesting to just kind of slow it down and let it be. But it was cool. And then our homework is to read Sonnet 30 and Sonnet 23, do the scansion and parsing for both. And then for Sonnet 130 to memorize it, because we'll be memorizing one every week, which I'm a little worried about, but that's good. I'm excited. I need to practice memorization. I'm not great at it, and it is a muscle. I believe that, and I'm choosing to believe that. And then we have to walk it out in the 3 different ways, where we walk and turn when the verse ends. We will, to identify the rhyme scheme, we walk and we turn at every internal and ending punctuation, commas, colons, semicolons, full stop, periods, exclamation points, question marks. And then we take a turn at all the full stops, the periods, question marks, and exclamation points. And that was the day. And then I stayed in the library and worked on my booth, which we'll see how it goes. I'm worrying that I'm running out of time again. I need to start at the beginning of the week, next week, for my booth. But I worked on it. I have an idea. We'll see how it goes. Anyway, thank you guys so much for staying with me for a whole hour. Hopefully you double timed it and it wasn't unbearable, Jado. Till next time. Bye-bye.